Welcome back to the channel. So a lot of people have been talking about this over the last few days. Ubisoft updated their terms of service and they've made a lot of changes that are scaring everyone. And I don't think you necessarily need to be scared, but you do need to make sure you are staying safe. And not only that, in their own terms of service, they have contradicted a lot of their own rules. They've basically broken their own rules instantly. So we will go through this. And we're not going to go through the whole terms of service, I'll leave a link to it in the description. But we're going to start off with section 5. What are our rules to sustain a friendly, safe and fair gaming environment and community? I've also heard a lot of people saying that this is something that EA pulled out of the bag. So it just seems as though Ubisoft are just trying to be sheep, following along and just trying to put really strict rules into place. But some of it is like breaching privacy. People have their own rights, their own private sort of like personal details, and Ubisoft have broken this with their terms of service. So with some of the stupidity in this terms of service like agreement, I don't think they could actually do anything. I'm not a legal lawyer in any way, shape or form, but I'll explain as we go along as to why I think what I think. So, this article details the rules of conduct you must follow and the behaviours which are forbidden in order to keep a friendly, safe and fair gaming environment and community. We're going to skip all the way down to 5.3 and point number 4 in that part of the section. So, if we look here, 5.3 is a non-exhaustive list of forbidden behaviours that may lead to investigation by our staff and may result in sanctions. So if we move down to point number 4, abuse, harass and bully. And this is talking about users and or our representatives, so their employees, members of the communities and moderators and star players. So if you give any abuse, if you bully or harass one of their star players or one of their employees, then you can have your account sanctioned. And not only that, it can be permanently. So every game you've ever bought that's related to Ubisoft, that goes back to Ubisoft, they can just take off you in an instant. And a lot of people are saying, oh, let's take Ubisoft to court, let's boycott the Division 2 and all this sort of stuff. It's not as simple as that, because if you go to a lawyer, you can ask them to have a look through these terms of service and give you advice on your next steps. But you can't just go to a lawyer and say, look, I want to take these to court. I want to file a lawsuit or something like that, because Ubisoft is such a big company, a lawyer isn't going to touch it unless you have millions available to spend on court costs and stuff, because it will not be a cheap journey taking Ubisoft to court. It will at least cover 6 figures, if not 7. It's a ridiculous amount because they are such a big brand. So it's not as simple as saying, oh, I'm going to file a lawsuit, take them to court, and you win the case and they change their terms of service. It's nowhere near that simple. But in terms of abusing, harassing and bullying their employees and their star players, it includes trolling, flaming, spamming, and using language or content deemed inappropriate, illegal, and then there's a load of other things on that little list, which is right around here. If I highlight this, so there's like vulgar, you've got dangerous, threatening, abusive, offensive. And then carrying on from point 14, any other kind of tampering that gives a user and or teammates an unfair advantage, so wall hacks, aimbot, or causes detriment to other users' experiences. Point number 15, exploit another broadcaster's live broadcast in order to gain an unfair advantage or harass a broadcaster in-game, such as stream sniping. Then number 16, any conduct which interrupts the general flow of gameplay in the game itself, any forum or any service, including but not limited to spamming, away from keyboard, farming, advertising or soliciting other products, in-game harassment and bad sportsmanship, including but not limited to team killing, rage quitting, blocking players' interactions, and or any other in-game behaviour meant to disrupt or interrupt the general flow of gameplay. So in other words, they want their games to run smooth. If you're in a game and you're playing really bad, and in order to save your monitor, your keyboard, in order to stop being stressed and getting angry, you're not allowed to rage quit. You can't do that. That's against the terms of service. You have to stay in that game that's frustrating the shit out of you. Point number 17, exploitation of any glitches or bugs which provide an unfair advantage over other users or which threaten the general balance or the economy of the service. Now, I'm not going into depth about economy because the Division 2 developers have said, oh, the damage glitch ruined the economy of the game. Well, I'm sorry, but there is no economy in the Division 2. But then it also states here in point 18, benefit from the help of other users or offer help to other users to obtain an unfair advantage. This includes, for example, you ready for this one? Teaming up with cheating users. Teaming up with experienced users to increase your user level and statistics in areas of a game normally reserved to newcomers. So let's just say Hamish Bode from The Division 2. He teams up with Wids, who's an experienced user, and Hamish then goes to increase his level and his stats. And they're doing it not in the occupied dark zone, but the one that's normalized because it's generally there for newcomers, or even if they're in the occupied dark zone, newcomers wouldn't necessarily know what the occupied dark zone is. So teaming up, is that not breaking the terms of service? But also, teaming up with experienced users to increase your level and stats in areas that are normally reserved to newcomers. Please, someone on this planet, tell me what the fuck the Shepherd rank is in The Division 2. Is that not like a system, a mechanic, a function that is put into that game in order for you to help new players? They have put a mechanic into The Division 2, and now the terms of service say that you can be sanctioned and permanently banned from all of their services if you then use the Shepherd rank. If you jump into matchmaking for a legendary mission, I'm just using The Division 2 because that's one of the biggest games I've ever played a lot of that are related to Ubisoft. And I know that legendary isn't made, like it's not normally reserved for newcomers, but you're still teaming up with people when you're matchmaking that might have a lot more experience than you, and you're doing it in order to get better gear. So you're leveling up and getting better statistics. And that is now apparently a bannable offence. And then it says here at the bottom, point 29, refuse to obey the instructions of our representative. So therefore, like, it's taking it completely out of context, but if you're speaking to Ubisoft support and one of them tells you to go jump off a cliff, if you don't go and do that, you're breaking the fucking terms of service. I am sorry, but the only people I'm going to obey are people that are actually official. Like, if I'm standing up in a court, I'm going to listen to what they're going to say in court. If I get arrested and I'm told something by the police, I'm going to listen to the police. And the only other people I'm going to listen to besides that are my parents. I'm not going to fucking listen to someone that works for a company that are trying to tell me what to do. Especially if you speak to one of the agents, like, that are part of Ubisoft support, and you tell them, because a lot of them, like, a lot of it's automatically generated messages. But if you get through to a live agent, I've had hundreds of conversations with them, and I've said, I've tried this troubleshooting step, and they then go and tell me to do that same thing again. I'm sorry, but if your game's broken, I'm not repeating steps that I've already taken to try and fix it. So if you tell me to do that, regardless of these terms of service, I am not going to do that. And yeah, it breaks the terms of service, but at the end of the day, all they can do is simply close my account down. Do I care? No, because what does that mean? That's one less person buying Ubisoft games. Their company gets smaller. And I know one person isn't going to have an impact at all because they're such a big company with millions of daily users. But the more people they do it to, the smaller their company gets. And then this one here, section 11, is the other important one that I want to talk about. So what are the conditions applicable to the content you may create or upload on our services? This article explains the different types of content you may create, publish and share on our services, and the related rights you grant to us and to other users on such content. Now this is where it gets like super duper crazy. In certain services, you may create, upload, edit, modify, adapt, publish and or submit names, images, designs, skins, photos, videos, maps, music compositions, sheets, streams, activities and other materials, so user-generated content or UGC. You warrant that your user-generated content will comply with these terms at all times, during and after its creation, and with any additional terms that may be applicable. This section will continue to apply after any termination of your account and or any termination or suspension of a service, so bear that in mind. This section will continue to apply after any termination or suspension of a service and or your account. So it says here, 11.1a, we are the sole owner of all intellectual property rights relating to derived UGC. You hereby irrevocably assign to us with full title guarantee, free of charge, all intellectual property rights and rights of use you may have over derived UGC on a worldwide basis and for the period of protection of each right. We may file or register any application for the property rights relating to derived UGC in our name in all countries in the world. In this respect, you must sign and supply any document, in particular, deed of transfer, requested by us for all registration purposes, and provide all necessary assistance to us at our expense in any related action or procedure. So if they say, right, we own the rights to your video you've just created, you have to give us the deed of transfer or you have to supply a document, how the fuck are you going to do that with a video you posted online? You're not going to be able to do that sort of stuff. And moving down, because this, the more I read into it, the more it's frustrating me. This is unacceptable terms. And I'm pretty sure with the fact that they have these mechanics in place and there are people that have clearly broken the rules that are within their companies, I think if they were to take someone to court, it would just be thrown out and Ubisoft would be laughed at because this is a mess. This hasn't been thought through properly. I don't know who's approved it. Is it a legit court that's actually approved this? Because this is terms of service. This is something that needs to be legally done. Because apparently alongside this, I think it's in August at some point, if you haven't already accepted their new terms of service, which is this, they will instantly terminate your account. All of your games and everything will be gone if you don't accept this within the next 3 months, because that's apparently when this is going into place. When action will be taken on this stuff. So moving on to point D, in the event that a competent court rules that some or all of your rights in derived UGC cannot be validly transferred to us, you hereby grant us a perpetual, royalty-free, exclusive, irrevocable, transferable, sub-licensable to other users, worldwide license to use, copy, host, reproduce, represent, modify, display, distribute, publicly perform, publicly display and in general otherwise exploit online and offline derived UGC for any purpose, without you necessarily being mentioned as the source of such derived UGC. So that means if you post this fantastic video, let's say it's the Division 2 and there's 100 tips and tricks to help new players, and it then goes and gets, I don't know, let's say it's 50,000 views and Ubisoft pick up on it and they're like, oh, let's go and share it amongst all of our social media. They do not have to tell any person in the world that that content is yours. They can have it all to themselves. They don't need to ask your permission. It's their content. They own it. So it's pretty much, if you're buying their games, they own you. But then moving on to E, you cannot use the derived UGC other than under the terms. We hereby grant you a non-exclusive and non-transferable personal license, revocable at all times, to use derived UGC you have produced throughout the world and for the duration of your use of the services, solely in order to record it on your console, computer, mobile terminal or any medium you use to access the services, load it on the services and share it with other users on the services. So there's another thing that contradicts itself because they've said it's revocable. They are allowed to take this license back, but referring back to the top of this section, it says that even after your account's been suspended or terminated, all of this is still applying to the whole point of the terms of service. So yes, you have a license to record games and play games through Ubisoft, so you can upload your footage, you're allowed to do that, but if they revoke your license, then you are not allowed to do it anymore. But at the same time, if you go back to the top of this section, it says that after a suspension or a termination, you still have to apply to these rules, so they still have to give you your license. Then 11.2 says UGC featuring your image. If your content reproduces your image, so if you have facecam and you're streaming, you acknowledge that we have a right to use your image as part of the services throughout the world and for the whole duration of the services. If your UGC features the image of any person other than yourself, you warrant that you have received the permission of such person for the use of his or her image by us, and you indemnify us for any losses which we may incur in the event of a complaint, action or claim by such other person concerning the use by us of his or her image derived from your UGC. So, if you stream, you do facecam, they don't have to ask permission. They can go and share your face with anyone in the fucking world. Anyone they want to, they can do whatever they want. So they even own your face if you're a streamer and you use a face cam. And apparently, like that's your privacy. You choose to make that stuff public, but apparently they have every right to do so. And then under 11.4, in all cases for both derived and independent UGC, unless otherwise specifically authorized by us, the ability to create UGC as part of the service we offer and does not entitle you to any payment or any other kind of monetization or benefits. For an example, Ubisoft virtual currency, in-game items, etc., including when the UGC is made available to other users. So that is all I wanted to share, like the most important parts for players, content creators. Basically, Ubisoft have changed their terms of service. They now actually believe they own us, like they're trying to make it seem as though they own us. And there's been a hell of a lot of people talking about this, so I don't know why, like, if there was anything different to how this is actually coming across, then surely someone would have said something. And, like, with my opinion, I could have got a lot of stuff wrong, so if I've taken any of it wrong and you know different, then please let me know in the comments. But I'm pretty sure we are safe. You just need to be careful, because if you're a streamer, I wouldn't stream with facecam because they have every right to use your face. And this isn't just the Division 2, this is across all Ubisoft games. So when Valhalla releases, if they make a Far Cry 6, when Watch Dogs Legion comes out, like, there's a hell of a lot of Ubisoft games, and they're now saying that they own all the rights to everything. You just have a license that they've granted, they can take it back whenever they want to. And if you're helping lower level players, you can get banned. If you're cheating and stuff, like cheating deserves the ban depending on the cheat and blah blah blah. But there's a lot of stuff that they've contradicted within these terms of service, and there's a lot of things that definitely do not make sense because their employees do all of the stuff that breaks these terms of service. And don't forget, don't abuse their star players because they're so important to the company. But on that note, I'm going to leave the video there. It's going to be a really long one, but it needs to be. This is important stuff, like incredibly important to gamers. But I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff. And remember, if I got anything wrong, please correct me in the comments. But that's going to do it for the video. Thank you for watching.